Hi, we're going to be going over changes in market equilibrium when we change supply and demand. We're going to shift supply and demand and see what happens to price and quantity. So we're going to be looking at these and shifting them and seeing what happens on the graphs. So what we've got is the market equilibrium at E1. We've got D1 here. This is for pencils. This is S1, prices, quantity, and what we're going to have is we're going to have an increase in demand. So this is an increase in demand, and you can see that price went up and quantity demand and quantity supplied also went up. So we went in this direction, and then we went from E1 to E2. The price went up and quantity demanded went up. Now, what caused the change in demand? What caused that? It could be increased income, increased population, increased tastes and preferences. The price of a complement could have went down. The price of a substitute could have gone up. Expectations, maybe prices were going to go up in the future, so we want the more pencils now. So demand actually increased and price went up, and quantity supplied and demanded went up. Now we're going to look at a decrease in demand. So we start with our equilibrium. We start at E1, then we have a decrease in demand, and it shifts to the left, and then we go from E1 to E2. Now, a decrease in demand could be a decrease in income, decrease in population, decrease in tastes and preferences, any of those other determinants. And basically, what happened to price? Notice price went down, and quantity went from 40 down to 30. So we had quantity, demand, and supplied went down, and price went down. So this is what happens when supply stays the same and demand will increase or decrease. So now I'm going to then start back at the beginning and look at what happens to supply. So we're going to look at what happens when supply goes up and supply goes down, and then we have basically demand stays the same. So we're going to start at E1, this is equilibrium, and we're going to increase supply. So an increase in supply, as you can see, we go from E1 to E2, so price goes down, and quantity supplied, quantity demanded goes up. So we're shifting to the right, but price is going down. What increases supply? It could be increase in technology, less taxes, more subsidies, better technology, better human capital, better capital, more competitors, so more firms in the marketplace. So we have more people producing the products. So we have price of related goods could change. So this product could be more beneficial for the supplier to make more of it. Expectations in the future. So there's a lot of things that could change and increase in supply. So now I'm going to look at a decrease in supply and what happens to price and quantity. So we start at equilibrium E1, and now we have a decrease in supply. So you can see the decrease in supply shifts the supply curve to the left, and what happens to price? We go from E1 to E2, so price goes up, and then quantity supplied goes down. So we have price goes up, quantity supplied goes down. That's with an basically decrease in supply. Now we're going to basically shift supply and demand together, and we're going to go over some things and see how it works. So it's going to be a little bit complicated. We're going to do them both at the same time, and I want to see what happens to price, what happens to quantity. So we're starting at equilibrium E1, and we're going to basically shift demand first and then supply. So what we have here is we go from E1 to E2 because we shifted demand first, and then we go to E3, and then we shift supply. So it goes E1, D2 to E3. Now, can you tell anything for sure about the price? Is the price going up or down? No, we can't tell because it depends on the shift. So the price, we're not sure if it goes up or down, but we definitely know the quantity demanded, quantity supplied both increased. So those both went up. So we do know the quantity increased, but we don't know about the price. Now, what happens if we shift supply first and then demand? What do you see? What does it look like? So let's do that. So there I've drawn the supply curve. Shifting first, so we go from E1 to E2. When supply shifts, the price goes down. And then we shifted demand. When demand increases, price goes up. So again, we end up basically at the same spot. I drew them kind of identical. So we went from E1 to E2 to E3. Price, again, we're not sure if it went up or down. Depends on how we drew it, but we definitely know quantity increased. And notice we get at the same place. We did not go up here. That's when we increased demand first. We went down here to increase supply. So we stay on the curve that we start with, and we go from there. So when you do both of them at the same time, you're not actually sure what happened with the price, but we know quantity went up or down. So that's changes in supply, changes in demand. Now, what if we decrease these things? What will happen? So that's fascinating. So let's try that. We increase demand and increase supply. Now we're going to decrease both of them. So we start at equilibrium. We always do that. So now we're going to decrease demand first. So we've got demand curve. So demand curve shifts to the left, price goes down. Now we're going to decrease supply. Supply is going to shift to the left. So we're going to go here. And we go to E3. So we go from E1 down to E2 to E3. So what happens to the price? Is the price increasing or decreasing? I'm not so sure. So price, not sure about, but definitely quantity is going down. So that's what's happening here. We're going from E1 to E2 to E3. Now you might say it went down a little bit, but it depends on how we draw the graph. Now I'm going to decrease supply first, then decrease demand and see what happens and see what's there. Okay. So we start at equilibrium, and we start where supply and demand are equal, and I said we're going to decrease supply first. So with this one, we've got E2, and then we're going to actually go to demand is going to sorry about that, but made it the wrong way, was increasing. So what we basically did, we went from E1 to E2, so supply decreased, then demand decreased, we went to E3. So that's where we moved. We went from E1 to E2 to E3. So we know the quantity decreased, and price we're not so sure because price is indeterminate. Depends on how you draw the decrease in supply and decrease in demand. So when you have both of them change, you're not sure what happens to the price. So when both of them change together, price goes up, or supply goes up and demand goes up, or demand goes down and supply goes down. We don't know what's going to happen with the price. We really just don't. We know what happens to quantity supplied and quantity demanded, but we don't know what happens with the price. So now we're going to kind of like mix and match them and see what that is. So this is going to be interesting to see what happens if we increase demand, decrease supply, and then vice versa. So we start at equilibrium. This is E1, and then we're going to, like I said, we're going to do, let's increase demand, decrease supply. So we're going to increase demand, so we're going to D2. So that's our increase in demand. Now we're going to decrease supply. So there's what we've got. We went from E1 to E2 to E3. So we know the price in this case went up, but we're not sure what happened to quantity. Quantity could have gone up, could have gone down, depending on the changes. So we increased demand, that could be increase in income. We decreased supply because we lost suppliers, competition went down. So that means the price went up, quantity we're not so sure. Now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to basically increase supply and then decrease demand. So like I said, we're going to increase supply first. We start at equilibrium E1. So we're going to increase supply, going to S2. So S2 increases. We go now from E1 to E2. Now we're going to decrease demand, so that means it shifts to the left. So we're going to go here. And that's E3. So this is the decrease in demand. So we go from E1 to E2 to E3. We know for sure, for a fact, price is going down, but we're not sure what's happening with quantity. Quantity depends on how we draw the increase or decreases in demand and supply. So when we have an increase in one and decrease in another, that's where we know that the basically price changes, but we don't know what happens to quantity. So this is very interesting. So I went through all the different supply and demand changes that could happen. Would like you guys to practice it and do it. I'll be going over some scenarios in class, giving you some things, maybe like 10, 15 problems to do. So you're going to draw it. You start at the equilibrium, and then you go for your S1, S2, D1, D2, and you draw your shifts. So if you have any questions, post them after the video or ask them in class. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.